That's a tap back at it for the reaction of what was and is a new champion of the undisputed lightweight division
in boxing.
Devin Haney in the boxing.
Yeah.
We were present in the building. It was an experience.
In the flesh.
DJ had fun. As you see behind us, the atmosphere, and that we're going to chop everything up in terms of the fight, how it went down, the wash up. You see the ticker down below. Was it a shutout? What to make of the rematch clause and what's next? But DJ, welcome everyone watching. Appreciate the support. Hit the like and subscribe button. And overall, what were your thoughts? Your initial thoughts?
Man, it's always fun to be part of these events. Welcome all. First of all, good to be here. I feel like it's been a minute since we caught up. But look, all in the timing works out, because obviously, we're coming out of a massive boxing event, and then soon we'll be also going into a massive UFC event. Well, a lot about that in our next episode. But last Sunday, obviously, it was a big day for us fight fans down under. They came to our very own Marvel Stadium and put on a show. All the marbles in the lightweight division, and two of the best in the division obviously fought it out, with our own George Kambosos Jr. taking on Devin the Dream Haney. Look, man, the atmosphere, being present, being able to feel the emotions in the crowd. I think the last time we were in a combat sports event was all the way back, UFC 243, Benadesanya to Whitaker. So it was amazing. I enjoyed the experience. Man, look, it was a good fight. Probably not the blockbuster everyone was expecting. I think hot off the heels of Kambosos Lopez, which was an instant classic with so much back and forth. But I guess styles make fights, even in boxing. You've got to cater to the style of the fighter, whereas Haney's a very technical, defensive boxer, who understood the assignments, I should say, and then, sort of went in and executed his game plan well. Disappointing night for the Aussie fans. Obviously, the local favorite not getting it done. And if anything, probably lost by a fair bit. Right? And you could sense it with the crowd sort of, going quiet in the middle there. Still, to maintain that sort of energy that the Australian fans are used to. And I hope Dana White was watching, because we want him to come here.
Yes.
But look, what was your thoughts on the overall fight?
A lot of what you said, you spot on. And I said to this, I think, during the event, I said about the stadium. Fights in a stadium, you could go two ways. The fighters sort of going, some fighters might go into their shell a little. It's new to him, or it was new to both of them in terms of stadium atmosphere. But the stage, for Kambosos being on home soil. We talked about Robert Whitaker being at the same stadium, not fighting his best fight. And I think there's something into it. How much, I don't know. How much to read into it. I feel fighters focus when they're on the road. There's a lot to be said in a hostile environment. When you got the whole crowd behind you, sometimes it can be a blessing and a curse. I feel Haney had a lot of motivation. His father, got into the country very, very, very late. In the lead up. And obviously, he's a great fighter. He was well prepared. His game plan was what most people thought it would be. Be elusive, be hard to hit, and also stick the jab.
I mean, the jab was the story of the night, man. Right? The whole fight, like he won that. He stayed behind the jab the whole time. He used it very effectively. The accuracy and the speed of that jab was just impressive. Even watching it live, I remember seeing how quick it was. To the point where we had to look at the screen again to see if it actually landed, because that's how quick it was. And it was quick on his feet. It was like, I guess, the two pivotal things in the victory for Devin Haney was the jab and the footwork, right? And how quick he was able to elude from the return fire from George Kambosos Jr. Now, before we talk more about the fight, I've got a couple of questions for you. So let's move back prior to the fight. there was a lot of talk around, you touched on this a little bit, where Devin Haney's dad, could only make it at the very last minute. Now there's a lot of widespread chat going on that it was a ploy employed by the Australian camp to sort of impact Devin Haney's camp. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with it. I could honestly see how the visiting team look at it that way. I don't think they're sort of out of line for thinking that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it to be true.
Yeah.
Because we live in Australia.
Yeah.
Like I said to you,
very strict.
many events in the past that artists, rappers, other distinguished guests that had a criminal history have been flat out denied entry.
Yeah.
So I understand it being a new experience for the Haney camp, for them to think that they were possibly, held out. But no, I don't think, and look, proof was that he was gained entry.
Yeah, correct.
If they really wanted to follow through with it, at the 11th hour, they would have just stuck to their thing. Yeah. So
correct.
What are your thoughts?
100% I agree, because I think too much thought's been given on to the fact that he was denied entry. I think not enough focus has been given on to him finally being allowed to come in. I mean, obviously living here, we understand how strict the border rules are here. And look, we're all, subject to this. But obviously when it happens in a bigger stage like this, obviously there's more eyeballs and more spotlight on it. But I think, it was purely based on the history that he was denied entry. But it's also worth mentioning on that, if they're saying it was a tactic employed by the home camp, you then also got to pay attention to the fact that camp had a lot of input in finally bringing him in. George Kambosos Jr.'s management had a lot of input, and they sort of, I guess, helped in bringing him in. His promoter and everyone. So I think if that was the case, they probably didn't have to do that.
And I just want to quickly share my own story. When I traveled to the US, 2020, I was just there traveling as a tourist, and I was put into interview room for 2 hours as well. Each country can be diligent in their border protection and in getting full knowledge of a person's history or purpose of their visit as well. So certainly, each country has their own. Australia has always been tight.
Yeah, I think being here, living here, we can honestly say it's always been a very tough set of rules. Getting into the country. I guess like where the frustration got amplified by those in the US was when Devin Haney's cut man was also denied entry. He did not gain entry at all. He was detained due to various reasons. Visa issues were cited. But again, look, I don't know too much on that to comment on it. But look, obviously putting that and this together, I think they sort of consider that as a way of trying to sabotage the US fighters' chances. Obviously, if that's what the claim was, I don't think it worked, obviously, because he came out victorious.
Yeah.
Look, even leading up to the fight, Haney looked like a man on a mission, right? Yeah. Obviously, George Kambosos was very George Kambosos Jr. Sorry, was very very determined. He also obviously had that vision to come out victorious. He kept saying victory by any means necessary, and obviously believed in me. That's been the trait throughout his career, his self-belief, and obviously he's a very hard worker. We've heard this from multiple people. There's talented boxers, and then there's also obviously hard workers, and obviously George falls into the hard worker category, and Haney is a talented boxer, obviously, and there's a lot of hard work there too.
Yeah.
I think for me, looking at those press conferences and everything going into the fight, while obviously I was strongly wanting George to win, I just had this feeling that Haney seemed like the guy who was more who was going to come out victorious based on the way he carried himself. There was a lot of talk about George's trash talk. I don't think it was. He speaks like that all the time. If you go back to the Lopez fight, right? You look at the press conferences; they were, if anything, even more hostile than what was here, right? So I think it was just merely the US people rallying around their fighter and sort of throwing some hate to it. George,
like styles make the fight, they say. Styles make fights, and Haney came in with a plan, but Kambosos had no way to counter that plan. You know what I mean? For me, I found and this goes into a bigger question I'll ask you after this, but the night, it was a bit underwhelming because of the action for some people. I felt, for Kambosos' best chance at winning, do you feel he could have forced the action a bit more, especially later in the fight? If you were his camp, would you have said, "Oh, look, we're down on the scorecard, with at least 4 rounds to go, you got nothing to lose. Force the action, you're down."
Yeah, good question. Look, I'm watching that fight live and having gone back and watched it again on video, I think he was trying everything. I just felt he was, right? I just felt Haney was that good. Haney was very elusive. He just wasn't there to be hit. Right. I think George was, throwing the punches, trying to get him, doing everything he could, but he was so good with his defensive boxing. Haney, that he just couldn't find Haney. Right. He was in, jab, and out. Right. And he used some slick movement, obviously, to get away from the return fire from George.
He was slick. Do you think there was claims that there was holding? Because I haven't had a chance to watch it on replay yet, and there was some talk about tactics, and the ref was very lenient on at times maybe Haney potentially, clinching and holding a bit, and if that was the case, should the ref have sort of tried to facilitate more action, or did it just look above board?
No, I thought it was above board. Look, if anything, I thought Haney used the clinch work very well, right? When he needed to tie him up, he did tie him up, right? I can't even watching it the second time, I couldn't see any sort of holding, right? I just thought it was fine, it was fair, right? Look, to be honest, I know George after the fight in his press conference said, "Look, I thought it was close. I thought it could have gone either way." But when the results were read out, even before the name was mentioned, he sort of had accepted that, which kind of most of the time like how it went, and it just it was quite obvious. Even for us watching, we knew straight away, right? I think in the 9th round or something, we had a chat and we said, "Look, what do you think?" And I said, "Look, this is not looking good," right? So I think he had accepted that. I think the fact, look, in terms of the referee interfering more, I don't think there could have been much done. It was just good defensive boxing. That's it. That's what it was, right? I don't think it was an action packed. It wasn't like punch to punch. It was more very technical. It was a very technical display by Devin Haney. But that's what we get to see from the likes of Devin Haney. But when you put someone like a George Kambosos and a Teofimo Lopez, they're both very similar fighters, where they come forward, coming for a fight, right? Not to say they're not technical, but they're like that fight, the aggressive element of it, right? Whereas Haney is more of a technical expert, where he wants to sort of do what he needs to do and get the result he wants. Right? So that's why it was that you see that sort of different forms of fight between the Lopez Kambosos fight and then the Haney Kambosos fight.
And then just touching on the scoring, DJ, is there anything you disagreed with? Do you think it was a bit more lenient towards Kambosos? The 2 16-12s and then 18-10. Is it?
I don't know. I mean, especially after having rewatched it, I found that 18-10 was a lot more accurate. Than the other way.
There's no way he won more than if he did win 2 rounds, there's no way he won more than 2 rounds. And look, all it could have been in boxing and combat sport, all it could have been is a couple of rounds were neutral, and they just decided to give that to the home guy. Maybe the crowd. It may not necessarily mean he won that round, but maybe it was just a neutral round. We were actually saying during the fight, it was like, this is hard to actually score the first couple of rounds from where we were sitting, maybe when you watch it on TV, you can score a lot easier. You're getting commentary as well. That's one thing to note. The first time we're in this big stadium for a boxing event, we didn't get any commentary. You didn't get, that kind of vantage point from where we're at. You have to use your own eye.
Yeah, you do. You do have to, and obviously you use the screen whenever you can, but obviously you don't have any audio. That's the thing, I think, as we were discussing on the day, when those early rounds there was very minimal activity, right? It's very hard to score, right? It then comes down to sort of who's pressing the action, ring control, those kind of things. Look, I'm no expert in boxing scoring. I know less about boxing and scoring around that compared to MMA. So, but I guess, looking at 118, 110, what that tells me is one guy won 10 rounds and the other guy won 2 rounds. That looks a little bit more accurate, right? Maybe the first round, and Haney himself said, "Look, I took the foot off the gas in the last round because I knew I was winning comfortably. And I just took that round off." But so if you go about that, maybe 10-2. I think 8-4 was a bit of 8 rounds to 4 was a bit of a push. I couldn't find a 4th round, especially. You can argue a 3rd round somewhere in those early stages, but a 4th round, it was hard. You know what I mean? And look, even at the end of the fight, like Haney comes out the fresher fighter. I remember that one point when the whole stadium erupted, including us, when there was a slip. Obviously, we thought it was a knockdown, which obviously would have played a big part in sort of in favor of Kambosos. But then later on, we realized the replay it was a slip.
I think it goes back to what we were saying. The crowd was so hoping for that moment where the fights arrived, and when they saw a fighter go down, you're in the stadium. There's liquor, there's excitement, all of that, and that goes part of the enjoyment of being live. But the fight lacked that. That whole moment where, like, okay, as a local fighter fan, like, this fight hasn't begun. There was just no moment outside of when he slipped. Where it's like, hey, he's got him in trouble. The crowd were chanting, and the ethnic crowd that was cheering for George as well. They're obviously chanting most of the night.
There wasn't the back and forth that we saw in the look. Maybe it was George's bad luck that he had the Teofimo fight before this, because it was such an action-packed fight. You saw him drop Teofimo in the first round, and like he's going against his power puncher. It was exciting, edge of the seat. And then in the 10th round, George gets dropped, comes back to win the next round. So to see that, and also in the recent past, we've come to see some really exciting boxing fights. And it's looked that the past few months have been looked at as the revival of boxing, right? And in that sense, the excitement that you'd want wasn't there, right? Yes, part of the crowd is actually blaming Haney for his style of fight, right? Whereas there's another part that's saying that George should have, like you said, pressed a little bit more. Look, we're not in the ring. We don't know, right? They've got to make that decision. At the end of the day, the stakes are quite high, right?
But that's where it goes into where boxing's headed. It's up to the commissions or the refs to implement more things. If you want fights to go different ways, you're asking a fighter that has a clearer technical advantage to get into a brawl. That's like asking a guy who feels like they're more skilled. Why would they?
Why would they?
All you have to do is do the bare minimum to win the belt. Right.
Yeah.
So I understand boxing fight fans' frustration by saying, like, hey, we want action pack. But if you're the fighter and you're clearly more skilled, why would you want to get into that situation?
100%.
So that's the question I actually wanted to hit you with, DJ, was this night better for boxing as an event, the way the fight went overall, or was it either okay, neutral, or was it worse for boxing? Because the reaction was overall underwhelming.
Look, it wasn't as action-packed, right? But I'm going to go ahead and say it was actually good for boxing, right? We're looking at something that's happening in boxing that we're not accustomed to seeing. I think Canelo probably set that trend, becoming unified champion, right? So this now, we've got a unified lightweight champion. I know there's multiple belts, but one person holds it. There's only one champion. There's no multiple champions, right? Because it doesn't make sense for me. Because we're used to the UFC method, and that's the accurate method. How can you have multiple people champions in the same division, right?
I like that too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something
So
that's a first.
That was a big win
that's
for
a good point.
right. Now we're also seeing a lot of people wanting to fight. There was this big four in the lightweight division. We got before George broke into the scene, right? Before the Teofimo George fight, no one was expecting George to come this big, right? So we had Teofimo, we had Haney, Javonta Davis, and Ryan Garcia, right? So the so-called big four, right? But they were reluctant; they were not fighting each other. Whereas now this has paved way to say, let's fight. Like they're all calling for this fight; they're all willing to fight. I think this will definitely set that trend for us to see bigger fights. How can I forget Lomachenko, right? For me, I personally think arguably one of the best boxers, right? I would love to, see that next time. We'll talk about what's next in a bit. And here's one more reason why I think it's a big win, not just for boxing, but also for Australian boxing. I think previously the biggest sort of moment we've had was in boxing is Jeff Horn beating Manny Pacquiao. Is that correct? Yeah. So since then, I think we haven't had this sort of exposure in the Australian boxing circuit. A homegrown champ going in and under the big lights at Madison Square Garden, capturing the belts and coming back. And he said himself, instead of saying, okay, look, give me an easy fight, I'll put together an exciting fight, bring someone who I can, beat up. Let's go, I'm the champ. Let me defend it a couple of times and then we'll do this big fight. And I said, look, bring the next best guy. Let's not forget, Kambosos was ready to fight Lomachenko. Before Lomachenko couldn't make it due to the war in Ukraine. And he said, okay, who's the next best guy? Then I can bring Haney in. Right? He gave that opportunity. And I think for that's very healthy for boxing. To see that and for people to see, okay, this is what we need to do. And I think that leaves a positive impact on the other boxers to do the same thing. So in that sense, definitely did. And also the fight itself, while it wasn't action-packed, it was still a very big technical masterclass, right? We got this aggressive forward pressure boxer in George Kambosos, and Haney sort of showed across 10, 12 rounds on how to fight a fighter like that, right? And take minimal damage and still get the job done, right? And one more thing I want to point out, and look, obviously, being from here, we went in, of course, I was a massive George Kambosos fan and I wanted him to win for this fight and all that, right? But then one thing we need to mention is sort of how Haney conducted himself throughout this whole thing, right? Yes, Kambosos had agreed to fight him. That's a big hurdle. But once you crossed it, you saw so many things happening. While he changed the promoter, right? He changed the promoter, and in doing that, he also got a pay cut apparently, right? And then he came in. He decided to go into HANEY V. Like, let's not forget, he was also a champion. Holding one belt, right? But and we know that the market is bigger in the US, right? I'm sure with Top Rank, with the reach they have, they could have made something. He said, "No, I'll go to Australia." He came here, came into enemy territory, and there was a lot of hostility. We saw that. He came in, and then he had the drama with his dad, who has been in his corner day in, day out, right? And didn't have it for the majority of the camp. There were some other issues that they faced as well, the cut man and all these kind of things. And adversity, did all the press conferences, right? Sort of, different conditions here in terms of weather. We know that it's a polar opposite to in the current given time to the US to us. So facing all that adversity, and obviously it's a lot harder in colder weather than warmer weather. So he came in, got through all those hurdles, and came, and because that shows me that mindset of I want to win. I'm here to get this job done. I want to win, right? And he came in and he got that done. And for me, that's massive for boxing. Right? That shows a champion who's willing to take these kind of risks. It sends a big message. Now the other big names would say, I want to match that. I don't want to just go and win a fight. People are going to talk about Haney's story. Let me match that. Let me go do something similar. Right? Do you see now all these big fights starting to take place and people fighting, right? Also, just as a branching topic to that, I also think, I guess Haney was very keen on this fight because the person holding the belt, which was George Kambosos Jr., I think in Haney's mind and in Haney's camp, they believed out of the others who could hold the belt, he's the easiest to beat. I think they didn't want to let go of that opportunity to be able to unify. This is the easiest, but in their mind, I'm not saying it is. Right? This is I'm assuming that, right? Like, I mean, comparing to the likes of Lomachenko or Teofimo Lopez, like because the Teofimo Lopez Haney fight never happened.
He actually never had a title defense.
Yeah,
you know, people in their mind, you might have thought he stole the belts from Teo.
Yeah,
and now there's a chance to steal it from him.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I don't know, like I mean, but that brings us to our next big question, and I'm going to throw this question at you.
Yep.
What's next for Devin Haney? Who should he fight next?
Great question, and that just sort of backs up my thoughts on what you said. I think it was overall more positive for boxing. It wasn't like a home run sort of night, but it was positive because it's now pushed the division forward a little. You know, and we hope that we get these fights that we want to see. All fans want to see on Twitter and all that. You know, follow us on Twitter. And but
that's a tab. That's a tab.
Join the conversation as well in the comment section. To answer to your question, the guy who was most recently in the news before this, Tang Davis, as well. Like Haney, there's no ducking now. There's no excuse. You're the holder of 4 belts, right? He's got the ability. He's got the confidence. He's got the game. You know, his style versus Tank's style. He's a hard hitter. I think that makes the fight that I personally want to see the most. And I wouldn't mind, you know, and then the winner out of that can face Garcia or Loma, but it gives a bit of time for Loma to. Yeah,
that's the only, like, you know, if you ask me, like, you know, you're gonna. If there's only one fight in that division you can make for the championship, who would you make? I would actually go with Lomachenko and Haney, because I still believe Lomachenko is like the best fighter there, and it's only rightful that he holds all the belts. I think he's still skilled. I think you know it's only rightful that he holds those belts, like for that purpose and maybe a selfish reason. But I want that fight to take place, but I also think it's going to be a technical match because you got 2 talented technical boxers, right? And then we've got Lomachenko, who's just, you know, battle tested. Right, he's there. If you look at some of his highlights, man, it's insane. His movement, his fight IQ, it's just crazy, right? It's just that's why part of me was so sad that the Lomachenko fight didn't happen here, because it would have been a dream come true to watch him fight live. I would have been insane, right? But look, I would like that, but that's, as you mentioned, with the current situation in their country, I think the timing is going to be the big thing. And you don't want to keep a champion on ice for that long, right? So then obviously the next probable choice is going to look like Gervonta Davis. Right?
Because they both came off like hot wins. So the logic should be 2 guys that have just come off hot wins, face each other.
That makes sense.
Like why stall the division?
But I also saw an update that Top Rank's trying to make Lomachenko versus Haney. They're trying to push for that fight. They're going to try to make that. If that were to happen, I'd like to see Gervonta Davis. If Teofimo wants to come back to the lightweight divisions, he's gone up a weight, 140. Because obviously the weight divisions in boxing work a bit different, confusing.
That's right. That's another topic. That Haney's looking to move up.
They're all trying to move up. I mean, obviously no one's weight cut. No one enjoys a weight cut. No one enjoys starving. But look, if that's the case, I'd like to see Teofimo Lopez and Gervonta Davis. That's a firework fight. Look, we'll have to wait and see. Let's wait and see what's next and how that goes. Obviously, George has said that he wants to reactivate the rematch clause. Look, I'm a bit apprehensive on that. Not to say that, look, he can't beat Haney, but I think he just needs a couple more fights. It depends on the nuances of the contract. I don't know if you have to activate it immediately, the next fight has to be that, or you're able to activate it at any point in a given time.
So what I was been told, and I'm not able to confirm it, but you know, it seemed pretty confident. The person said it was a 12-month. So it must be activated by
within
12
the 12 months,
which is why they floated the November day. So it makes sense, you know, not to hold up the division. If there is a rematch like the Fury Wilder, like don't get caught up in court and all that. Just make it happen. And look, it might hold things up temporarily, but it's $10 million for Kambosos. It's more, more marketing and more money for and possibly an easier win for Haney. I say, like, why not just get it out? Why not just do it again in 5 more months?
But why can't they do this? Why can't they get Kambosos to fight someone else, right? Because there's 12 months, and in the interim you get Haney to fight one of those, right? And then the Kambosos gets the winner. But I don't know if the contract states the rematch has to be with Haney and not the title holder. I guess we don't know the nuances of it. So
I guess it always goes in when you're a fighter in a position of power. The contract you sign with your opponent, if you're the ones choosing the opponent, you're always going to put the terms on your side.
Yeah.
And for what George is saying is that he had the 3 belts.
Yeah.
And he decided to have it at Marvel in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
And he decided to try Loma, but he was unavailable. But then he said, okay, Haney.
Yeah.
But then he's like, okay, I'll give it to Haney, but it has to be on my terms, which includes, if I lose, a rematch within 12 months, and it must be at Melbourne again. And look, Haney agreed to it. Like, at the end of the day, like, he took his chance, he won his belts.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with honouring what was both agreed before the fight.
Yeah, no, look.
Because before a fight, you have no idea of the result. You sign your name on the paper.
Yeah. Well, look, if that fight would happen again, I'll be honest, I'll watch it. I'll actually go and watch it. I'm assuming it'll be in Marvel again. Or one of the other stadiums. But from what I heard, again, not confirmed, but from what I heard was that Kambosos did not want the rematch clause in there.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the rematch clause was put in. I don't know who did, but like initially didn't want the rematch clause. Because I remember in the post-fight questions, the reporter started the question by saying, are you glad the rematch clause that you originally didn't want was in that contract?
Yep.
So look,
I could see, maybe because he thought, what if I win? Then I have to give him the rematch. Yeah. So it goes both ways, I guess. But look, money-wise, and I think, whilst people say fresh after the fight, it was boring, and I wouldn't want to watch that again. Look, we all want to love a good scrap.
Yeah.
As long as it's a short turnaround, that's my only apprehension.
Yeah.
If we have to wait 12 more months for a rematch, that's just way too long.
Yeah.
But if they say, hey, here's the date, November, let's get it. I'll be like, okay, look, maybe we could have these other guys fight in the meantime.
Yeah.
I just think the guy that had the most belts deserves
I was just going to suggest that
a rematch because he didn't lose by a knockout and he didn't lose by KO or TKO. Yeah, he might have been dominant, but if a fighter with a champion that loses a fight loses their belts only by decision, I believe a rematch is fair.
Because if I were to be the devil's advocate, then I would say, look, I feel it was a shutout, right?
Yeah.
And it was only his first title defense. Does that warrant an immediate rematch? I agree with you. I think probably
it's debatable. Definitely, yeah. Like, it's debatable whether you want to see a rematch, whether he deserves it. I just think more from the technical boxing letter of the law.
Yeah.
Like, let's say Fury Wilder, like, one of them was pretty lopsided, right?
Yeah.
But let's say it wasn't even a knockout, it was just a decision.
Yeah.
You would think, okay, the other guy automatically deserves another chance.
Yeah.
I think most people just don't believe Kambosos ever has a shot at winning, which doesn't have them excited for a rematch.
But hey, you could prove them wrong. He's still a very skilled boxer, an extremely skilled, talented, hardworking boxer, right? Yeah. It's only it's just on and how you turn up on that day.
Yeah.
But you never know.
And style, though, it's hard for him to touch
the
Haney.
Style, Haney's style. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see. Let's see if he goes when he fights Gervonta Davis, who's also sort of a power puncher. Let's see how he fares with him, and let's see how much success Davis can have, right? And it'll be interesting to see those kind of things. And maybe then the criticism will be lesser. I guess it was. I guess we're seeing a little bit more of an outpour of hatred than usual, because I guess of that trash talk leading up to the fight. People felt George was, and this is again, like I said before, with the Lopez fight. Lopez was as aggressive as Kambosos in the beginning, so he didn't come across as that person who's trying to trash talk. He was just merely being himself, which is what he was here too. But I think with Haney taking that approach of being more taking that softer, sort of gentleman approach, I guess the general public viewed that as, look, you got one humble fighter and you got someone who's trying to agitate him. That's sort of kind of reason. And then the weight loss, or the missing of weight for Kambosos sort of didn't gain him any favors with the general public, especially the US fans. We saw a lot of boxers tweet out in favor of Haney.
Yeah,
obviously wanting him to win.
He has a lot to prove. Yeah, let's just be honest.
Yeah.
He needs to handle with more humility, which he will because he lost. But he needs to change it up, obviously. And do you think there was talk at the press conference that from his dad, Kambosos, that he didn't follow the plan or execute it? So if there was a rematch, do you feel like there's something that he didn't execute that he could execute better? Or do you think he executed everything and it's just nonsense and he's just not good enough?
No, look, we don't know what went in the camp, right? Like, the thing though, right, is that for me, it looked like George Kambosos was fighting his fight. Like, that's how he fights.
Yeah.
Right. And Haney was fighting his fight. Right. So I think if they're creating game plans, they obviously would have created game plans based on watching these guys fight previously, right?
Yeah.
Based on that, they fought exactly how they fight.
Yeah.
It fought in their last fight. So I think Haney said we stuck to the game plan, like, make sure that the power shots, avoid the power shots. Yeah. He has an overhand, get away from it. The hook, get away from it, and he did, right? I think he executed it well. I think for George it was hard because he couldn't find Haney in front of him. He couldn't, because his two greatest weapons were taken away. What happened? I don't know if they had a plan B in place. We don't know, right? As I said, like, I think George Kambosos Jr. is a fantastic boxer, right? Yeah. What he did with Lopez was amazing, right? Yeah. And the thing is that was a lot of display of heart and grit and strength. In order to do that, you need to be put in a situation where you need the fighter who has that same sort of kind of reciprocates that, right? Whereas, and we said, Haney is more a technical fighter, in and out, right? Now, here's the thing though, right? If there was a rematch, obviously having suffered this defeat, I feel Haney's camp Kambosos' camp will try and change things.
Yeah,
right?
They have to, yeah.
Right. But in doing so, are they running the risk of changing who Kambosos is? A forward pressure aggressive fighter. And when you do that, A, right, does that necessarily lead to victory? B, does that make way for an even more boring fight? Because obviously what is the natural shift in game plan is going to be more patient. Don't rush in more as much as you did. Right? You can see he's fighting point the jab, stay back, be patient.
Yeah.
So does that then lead to a lot of inactivity? Because you got Haney's rangy, Haney's got the longer range, right? And hey, can we make mention that Haney is only 23 years old?
Oh yeah.
When I was 23, I was downloading cartoons legally.
Yeah.
I was man, it's just crazy then. Like,
Well, in the US too, I got to mention, you need to be 21 to drink.
Yeah.
In the US.
It was barely legal. Man, and to do that, to be the undisputed world champion, dream come true indeed. I saw a photo where he's holding up a belt when he's a kid. Yeah. And he said, I would start it, and now he's got all the lightweight belts now. Amazing. I think he's a great boxer with a great future. I do see him defending his title successfully.
Yeah.
But not against Lomachenko, if Lomachenko's next. I don't know. That's just my personal feeling. It could be personal bias because I'm a massive fan of Lomachenko, but I just think...
Either way, and I'm glad you mentioned his age, because I was going to mention Kambosos' age, and what's next for him. The fact that he's a healthy age, 28, whether he fights Haney ever again, he's going to clearly get another good matchup, and you have more opportunities to prove that winning belts wasn't a fluke. We all know he belongs. Styles make fights, and Haney was just too elusive.
Yeah.
But I do think Kambosos is going to be around this division for a number of years, and I do strongly feel that these two, if not the rematch, they'll fight again.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
Because there's really Lomachenko, like you said, Garcia,
Davis,
Javante, him, and then once they've all fought each other, they're going to do it. They're going to run it back, basically.
Yeah, you're right. Let's not forget he's only 28, and for everything we're giving props to Haney today, Kambosos did that in Madison Square Garden. He went into enemy territory. He faced a hostile crowd. Yeah. He faced a hostile opposing camp. We know how aggressive Lopez's camp is. We had Teofimo Lopez's dad and trainer walk into Kambosos' gym and sort of trash talk there and start a brawl. That kind of aggression that they met with. He did all that. He went in and he's been doing that all that. We need to remember those things, right? Let's not forget just because he's lost his fight, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
This is the upper echelon of boxing, right? You can't lose to anyone, right?
Yeah.
There's no shame in that, right? Look, I'm looking forward to seeing George Kambosos Jr. back doing what he does best. He was undefeated prior to this as well.
Yeah.
Right? And one thing I massively respect about him is that when he said in the post-fight press conferences, protecting records, I don't care about the zero. The best should fight the best. Again, sets a massive example and why this was very positive for boxing. I think the fight itself, it was already a big positive for boxing even before the fight took place.
Yeah.
Right. I think what could have pushed this into the next level would have been the fight actually being very interesting.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yeah.
It was a good fight. For those who like the technical element of it, I think there was a lot to take away from Haney's performance. But just in general, I think it was a good fight. Right? It was a good fight. It was a good title fight. So
another point I want to make earlier as to why it was good for boxing is for the local element.
Yeah.
And George was asked this, what this meant. He chose this as a stadium fight. He chose Haney as a legacy fight. Whether he lost, but I still feel this adds to his legacy. I'm not going to say enhance it, but he'll always have that he was at the pinnacle, had a 40,000 stadium title fight, and what that means is young kids in the country, the local fighter scene, he's put us more on the map down here. It's truly a global sport. He was humble in his idols, praising Duran and Muhammad Ali.
And and let's not forget the stage is created for the next generation, or the current generation, or the next set of boxers or stars to come, right? You know what I mean? Like, he had local fighters in the undercard fighting, right? So it's sort of bringing those eyeballs in and everything. That was good. You know what I mean?
And a free fight in the US. Like the way it was done, the attention it got is also another reason why it was more on the good side for boxing. The fight wasn't as exciting. Like you said, that would have been the cherry on top for me, but just the event overall and not having, the UFC, which we're going to record our next episode. They moved their time.
It was an earlier one.
It was an early card, so it didn't clash. So they knew this was a big boxing event.
No, they knew it was definitely something a lot of people, especially when you go free to air, right? A lot of people are going to watch it, right? And look, whenever championships are involved and whenever there's all the marbles, it's a different story. But hey, did you feel that the main event creeped on us really quick? At the event, I wasn't expecting that. I was like, 1 minute I'm munching down on a hot dog, and then the next minute, what's his name? Mike Buffer, is it?
Michael Buffer.
Michael Buffer. Saying it's time to be ready to rumble. And I'm like, what? But look, he creeped up on us. But I guess we're used to UFC cards. And sort of the structure there.
Bigger card. This one was more, daytime for us. Obviously, daytime was a Sunday day. We got a little sleep in, but would have liked maybe a little bit more later.
We like a night. A night event would have been nice. We like to be out at night watching a fight and then come out and enjoy the night.
But I love to see the viewing numbers. We might touch on in a future episode as to how more successful this night was. ESPN surely got top rank and got good viewership. And also down here, the money. It was a good night for the fighters. There's a lot of and we'll continue this conversation in the UFC topic. But fighters not earning as much as earning more than UFC fighters. George Kambosos, there's a reason he didn't look too devastated. He made $10 million.
And let's not forget the pay-per-view shares. That's before the pay-per-view shares.
There's another reason to do it all over again. That's generational wealth.
But I was surprised with $2.8 million for Haney. I don't know how that worked.
I was too. Maybe the commission, because 3 belts and 2 belts, A and B side.
Could be, definitely Kambosos would have been
down here.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now, right? I'm going to ask you a question, right? It just needs one word. The answer needs to be one word, right? Right. So, CT, you were at UFC 243, and you were at Kambosos versus Haney. Which event did you prefer? Which one was your favorite event?
Oh man, which UFC? Because I've been to a few. Which UFC event?
The one here.
Okay.
So I'm talking about local.
UFC, the local.
So the UFC 243. Whitaker, Adesanya, or and not just with the fights, but in terms of everything, atmosphere, sort of everything.
Look, UFC.
Yeah.
I've got to choose the UFC. For actually, guess why you think I might say that?
Was it because? Was it because
The main reason? There's a couple. Small reasons.
Was it the first time you're watching UFC in Melbourne?
Yeah, that's true, but that's not the reason.
Did you not watch Ronda Rousey?
No, I didn't. No, okay. I didn't go. So I'll say the atmosphere, the walkouts, that the significant walkout Adesanya give is going to be on the UFC highlight reel.
Oh my God!
And they emphasize that more. The boxing walkouts were just like you said; it just got sprung upon us.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're walking out.
And then Haney didn't walk out for a while. Like his music played, and then they stopped. They went back. It looked like there was some confusion, and then he came back.
Yeah, the crowd. I think it was delayed because it looked to me the police were scrambling. Yeah. Maybe some a sprinter.
Could have been
somebody sprinted on to try to because it looked like something was going on, and then it was delayed.
Yeah, for me, hands down, man. UFC it was 57,000. Right, it definitely felt like this one felt a little bit empty. Yeah, but that was definitely 57,000. The fights delivered, and the hype to that fight, champion versus champion, a monster in Robert Whittaker, and this person who's in Israel Adesanya, who's risen through the ranks rapidly, beating all the challenges, to then come and like meet in the octagon. For me, that was so mouth-watering. The walkouts were insane. I thought the crowd was a lot more involved. Yeah. Right? Like I said, I felt like I was in a small room when I watched that, because how packed the stadium was and how the atmosphere was. Whereas in this one, I felt a little bit like, I'm in this big space. You know what I mean?
Yeah. More names, basically. We all appreciate the undercard in boxing, but 40,000 people were really there for just two people to fight. And UFC, there was so many different names and known fighters that you would enjoy.
Yeah,
made a big name.
Yeah.
Themselves, but let's hope these fighters on the undercard, who there was a few knockouts.
There were.
So we have to give them appreciation.
Yeah, and well done to all the boxers who, especially the local talent, who were able to secure wins. Even the core main, it's a knockout. Obviously, in some other exciting fights in there too. So look, overall it was a good event. But all the more reason, Dana White, let's go, man. Pressure's on you, right? Let's go. Let's come on. We got Marvel Stadium here. We got Rod Laver. Hey, you want? We'll make the MCG work, man. Come on, we'll figure something out, right? Just let's go. You know what I mean? It's time that you guys came back. Extremely disappointed that the Adesanya, Kananaya, Holloway, Volkanovski card is not happening here. You got all the elements and the recipes for it to be a massive hit down here, right? Two of the biggest superstars in this region, and the champions are local, right? It only makes sense, right? Maybe he wasn't sure if you can pull off an event. Well, there you go. Something happened last week, and you saw how successful it was. So let's go. Let's go. We want to.
Pressure's gone up because remember Dana did say, he mentioned Australia when a future stadium UFC thing. He mentioned Australia as possible. The US, it's not too viable. Obviously, the success of the O2 Arena. But the last two stadium fights were boxing events. Tyson and now Kambosos, Haney. So Dana White has to be watching UFC. More pressure. Like
I mean, they've gone to the UK twice. There's no reason why they can't come here.
But we want to continue the conversation about boxing a lot more. This is an exciting division. We'll keep talking about it. Especially if there's a rematch announced, we'll jump back on and pick this up. But we're going to pivot over to the next episode, which is the UFC 275 preview. Singapore. One half of us will be in the building.
CT is going to be in there, front row.
Ready there, heckling Dana White. Getting in the fighters' ears. And we'll talk that up in the next episode. So look out for that. But DJ, good talking again. Great event, and look forward to it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a wrap until we catch you in another episode of
That's a Tap. Salute.
Catch you later, guys.
Thanks.